Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. Today we're heading to Modern to check out a super sweet control deck. This is Blue-Black Sword Control. Recently took Anthony Hung to a top 8 finish at a SCG Super IQ, so congrats to Anthony on their finish with the deck. A quick reminder before we break it all down, if you enjoyed this deck and want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So this deck is pretty sweet. It is somewhat fairies-ish, but not really a fairies deck. Really, what this is a control deck built around some really powerful creatures with enter the battlefield abilities, also evasive creatures that can wear swords. So the deck plays two swords, Sword of Feast and Famine. Pro Black and Green lets you untap all your lands when the creature deals damage, which is awesome because, for example, on turn 5, you can cast the sword, equip the sword, attack with the sword. As long as you get in that hit, you get to untap your lands, plus your opponent discards a card, but you untap your lands, which lets you leave up counter spells for removal. And then Sword of Light and Shadow, which is sort of a reverse Kolaghan's command almost. Instead of dealing 2 damage to a player, you get to gain 3 life, plus you get a creature back from your graveyard, which you can use almost like you would use Kolaghan's command to get back really powerful enter the battlefield effects. So the idea is, you get these swords and you equip them on evasive, hard to deal with threats. So there's a lot of flying threats in this deck. You got Bitter Blossom, Spellstutter Sprite, and Vendilion Click. So it's worth noting that package looks a little bit like a fairies deck. Bitter Blossom, Spellstutter, Vendilion Click, all fairies. Although it's not really a fairies deck, you're not playing the big fairy payoff cards. Instead, you're using these because of their synergy with swords and their synergy in a control deck. So Bitter Blossom just gives you an endless stream of 1/1 flyers that you can use to equip your swords to. Spellstutter takes advantage of the Bitter Blossom fairies to counter something when it enters the battlefield. Plus, it's really nice because you can use it to dodge sorcery speed removal, play it at the end of your opponent's turn, and then equip a sword to it, get in the sword hit. And then Vendilion Click, kind of the original Thought-Knot Seer, plus it's an invasive body. And then 3 copies of Snapcaster Mage, which takes advantage of the fact the deck is playing a ton of spells, and Snapcaster is a great creature to get back with your Sword of Light and Shadow, because then you can reuse Enter the Battlefield ability. Actually, all of these creatures are great targets for your Sword of Light and Shadow, just like they are with something like Kolaghan's Command. So as far as the control elements, I mentioned Sword of Feast and Famine is especially nice because it lets you untap your land so you can equip it, do stuff on your turn, develop your board, but still leave up counters like Spellsnare, Mana Leak, and Cryptic Command. And then you can also leave up removal. You got a bunch of different options: Slaughter Pact, Disfigure, Go for the Throw, and Murderous Cut. All great targets to flashback with Snapcaster, takes advantage of the sword synergies. And then a bit of discard in Inquisition of Kozilek and Thoughtseize. And then rounding out the non-land cards in the main deck, we get one more creature, Kalitas, Trader of Get. Just a really good body in Modern, dodges lightning bolts and lightning helixes and abrupt decays, and pretty impressive with a sword thanks to lifelink, gains you a lot of life, swings the race in your favor. As far as the mana base, we get some interesting ones. Creeping Tar Pit and Mutavault give you lands that are also creatures, so in the late game, if your opponent manages to deal with all of your actual creatures, you can equip these up with a sword, get in that sword hit, start getting your creatures back with Sword of Light and Shadow, keeping your opponent's hand empty with Feast and Famine. And then Pendelhaven is a way to pump up your Bitter Blossom tokens, your Spellstutter sprites, and then a single Ghost Quarter to deal with opposing creature lands and non-basics. And then just a bunch of blue-black dual lands and a few basic lands. Moving to the sideboard, you got Kalitas, Trader of Get, some more copies to bring in. Really good against aggro decks thanks to the lifelink. Ancestral Visions, good in grindy control matchups, let you draw 3 over the course of several turns. And then Hurkyl's Recall for Affinity. Then we have some more removal, a couple engineered explosives, a Damnation, kind of pseudo-wrath, both of them, Damnation or real wrath, and then one more Disfigure for Goblin Guides and other early creatures, elves, and so forth. And then a bit more counter magic in a couple of Dispels and a couple of counter squalls for non-creature spells. And that is Blue-Black Sword Control for Modern. Deck is super spicy, really like the sword synergies. Anyway, that's been our Instant Deck Tech for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon.